All right, let's get now substantively into the question of corruption. And a lot of statements have been made as regards the fight against graft in Kenya. It's a big problem. Every other day I receive messages from EACC of this county official is suspected of misappropriating this amount. These bank accounts have been frozen. And then on the political front, as far as this election is concerned, Azimio has called into question Deputy President William Ruto's commitment to fighting a graft. And Deputy President William Ruto says that investigation machinery has been used to weaponize the fight against graft. What do you make of all of this? I'll start with you, Faith.
Looking at the people, actually looking at the manifestos, they're all saying they're going to fight corruption. You know, I looked at Wajakoya saying he's going to hang people, and then Raila is saying there is zero tolerance to corruption. Azimio, Kenya Kwanza, the same about corruption. But then I think also the question I'd want to ask the two people from Kenya Kwanza and Azimio, when you think about fighting corruption, shouldn't we begin from within? You know, how am I going to trust them to fight corruption while even within themselves they've not done that? Like when someone tells you we're going to fight corruption and from within they're still fighting through the same things. And again, these are the people who have been in government while our own president is telling us we are losing 2 billion a day. You know, why didn't they try? You know, they did not try. They did not even raise concerns or questions and say, we are losing 2 billion a day. But our own president says that and asks us, sasa nifanye nini?
Okay. Ruth, do you think the political class are doing Kenyans a disservice, right, by politicizing the war on graft? Because in the course of these elections, I've heard when the questions are raised about Aurora and Kimwarer, you hear the other side fire back and say, first tell us about KEMSA. Or now questions are being raised by the very same politicians who backed the SGR deal. Now they're saying, oh, you know, it was the questions around it. I had questions around it, but you didn't say anything when you had an opportunity to do something about it. Now you're shouting from the rooftops about it. So do politicians, do Kenyans a disservice by politicizing the war on graft?
I mean, just as you have said, yes, they do a disservice to Kenyans when it comes to politicizing the war against graft. And one of the greatest ways in which the war against graft has been politicized is when people make allegations that, you know, our side of the political divide is being fought by investigative authorities. You know, corruption allegations are only being made, corruption allegations are only coming up because this particular individual supports this particular politician. That is one of the ways in which we politicize corruption. And the other way that we politicize corruption is when we act like we are so holier than thou. We forget that when we mention or when we do an audit of some of the greatest corruption scandals that we have witnessed in this country, some of the people that are in our political divide, or even a great majority of the people in our political divide, were involved in these particular corruption scandals. When we fail to mention in our plans how we ourselves will be subjected to systems of checks and balances when it comes to the fight against corruption, because it appears that these manifestos about the fight against corruption are being made for other people other than ourselves, you know, that we are thinking of other people. Who, it's almost as if we are making this manifesto for other people who are involved in corruption, but not ourselves. We are not seeing these politicians mention how the people in their own camps that have been, you know, alleged of being involved in corruption, how will they deal with these particular individuals? How are they even, why is it that they have even tolerated these individuals in the first place, vying, you know, vying on their political parties, if in the first place they are claiming to have zero tolerance to corruption? So I think when you look at these instances and these incidences, it speaks of this, it speaks of lack of honesty when it comes to the fight against corruption. It speaks of a lack of clear commitment when it comes to the fight against corruption. It speaks of dissociation from being subjected to systems of audits and checks. You know, you yourself being subjected to systems of audits and checks. It speaks of failure to address, you know, historical issues that we've had before, that none of these people are talking about in the past. What has happened in the, how are we going to deal with the various unresolved scandals that we still have pending, you know? We are all talking about the future, but we are not looking at how do we resolve the historical issues that still bedevil our country. Yes, as you mentioned, the various types of corruption scandals that we have faced as a country, for instance, we must look at the cost of corruption for us as a people. And questions, I mean, when I see scandals such as the NYS scandal that was targeting a program that was supposed to empower the young people, you know, the young people are a great empowerment program that had been set aside for the young people. When you look at scandals such as the Galana scandal, the Mwea and Galana scandal that was seeking to target, for instance, you know, that was seeking to boost food security for this particular country. So for us as a people, we must look at the cost of corruption and then ask these politicians that in their various manifestos, how do they themselves propose to be subjected to systems of checks and balances, rather than just making proposals for other people. How do they themselves plan on dealing with the various corruption cases that their people have either been mentioned in or they themselves have been mentioned in?
Okay, so we